So Caroline, if you wouldn't mind pressing record now. Oh, we're recording, never mind. I see the red dot now. Okay, so I just want to take a minute for everybody to thank everybody that's tuning in tonight. This is a community meeting for SP2020-10 Airport Animal Clinic, which is a special use permit request for a veterinary use. This meeting is being held pursuant to and in compliance with Emergency Ordinance number 20-A6, an emergency ordinance to ensure the continuity of government during the COVID-19 disaster and the open meeting requirements of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. Those on the call tonight from the Albemarle County Community Development Department include myself. My name is Mariah Gleason. I'm the lead planner assigned to this project, as well as Caroline Schaefer and Michaela Accardi. They are helping us to coordinate the behind the scenes of this meeting, so you might hear them chime in. Daniel Heyer from Line and Grade is also on the call tonight. Daniel is the applicant for this project. So I'm just going through some of the groundwork and then we'll kind of get into the meat and potatoes of the project meeting. But just so everyone is aware, this meeting was coordinated with Supervisor B. Lepisto-Kirtley and Planning Commissioner Corey Claiborne. And Corey is listening in with us tonight, and Supervisor Lepisto-Kirtley sends her regards, but she had something come up tonight, so she won't be joining us. Those that are responsible for receiving public comment tonight are Daniel Heyer, the applicant, and Albemarle County Community Development Department, which I'll be responding to. So big thank you to everybody that's participating online and over the phone. I'll go over this again when we get to it, but during the Q&A portion of the meeting, we'll invite you to share your comments or questions by clicking the raise hand button at the bottom of your toolbar. This will notify the meeting facilitator that you would like to speak, and you'll be placed in a queue at that time. Alternatively, you can send a question through the Q&A box, and the staff will read the question or comment out loud. If several similar questions or comments are submitted, we may summarize them due to time. But all comments will be included in the public record and reviewed by staff and the applicant. If you're tuning in via phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand. If you would like to speak, you can also press the same keys, *9 to lower your hand after you've finished your comment or question. All right, so from here, I'm going to start us off with a short presentation about the purpose of this meeting, the development review process, and basic project info and dates you might want to be aware of. Then after that, Daniel's going to follow up with some more information about the project proposal. All right. Ooh. Sorry, bear with me as I figure out the presentation part of this. Okay, great. Does everybody see the presentation and not the notes? Thank you, Daniel. Shaking your head, appreciate that. Okay, so if you've attended a community meeting in the past year, this presentation might look very familiar to you. We use a shared template when talking about special use permits and similar projects at community meetings. So for those of you on the phone, most of the information in my presentation is text, so I'll read that information for you. So why are you here tonight? Community meetings function as a time and space to share information about the proposed project, the development review process, and relevant regulations and policies that apply to this specific application. Community meetings are also a way for the applicant and county to solicit public input on the proposed project. And a summary of this input is going to be included in a staff report that's reviewed by the Planning Commission and Board of Supervisors, so it does go somewhere. So where are we in the process right now? This image is a bit fuzzy, but what you see here are basically colored blocks that represent stages of the community development process. The application has to be reviewed within each state, has to be approved, excuse me, within each stage before proceeding to the next stage. So right now we're at the beginning of that first stage of the development process in the tan block. So next I'm going to talk about what special use permits are and why this development is going through a special use permit process. First off, the zoning ordinance dictates what can be done by right on a property today. So county staff review proposed developments against the zoning ordinance to make sure they meet the county's regulations and protect public health, safety, and welfare. But staff legally cannot deny a by right use. So this review process for a by right use is called an administrative review. A legislative review, which is what this is when approval from the Board of Supervisors is required. This comes into effect here because the applicant is requesting a use on the property that is not a by right use, but what is called a special use. Special use applications have a higher level of review, and that includes review by county staff and other agencies like VDOT, Albemarle County Service Authority, Ravenna Water and Sewer Authority, and other bodies like engineering inspections. It's also reviewed by the Planning Commission and Board of Supervisors. When they consider special use, when the Planning Commission and Board of Supervisors consider special use applications, they do so at what's called a public hearing. Public hearings are also opportunities where you are more than welcome to attend and comment on these projects. So those function as additional opportunities past this meeting to share your input, and I'll give you those dates at the end of my presentation. Okay. So the aspects that are considered during the review of a special use permit include that no substantial detriment is caused by the special use. That means whether the proposed special use will be a substantial detriment to adjacent parcels, that the character of the nearby area is unchanged, that it's harmonious with the purpose and intent of the zoning ordinance, the other uses permitted by right in those areas. And then the last one is consistency with the comp plan. So the comp plan is kind of a 20-year visioning document that just makes sure that with what buildings don't go up for just 5 or 10 years, they go up for more along 20 to 50 years. So that this is consistent with the comp plan basically means that this is kind of what we want to see in the long term in this area. And that is also subjective, so just to keep in mind. So the applicant for this development, Daniel, is going to speak in just a minute, but here's some basic information about the project. This is a request to allow a veterinary clinic in what is an existing building. So I don't know if you can see my cursor. If you can't, I'm very sorry, but that big white building is Target. So it's across the street from Target, and I think there's like a McDonald's and a Subway, and then right behind that is this building. It's on World Crossing and I think it's Fortune. I'm not sure. I'll have to look at that street up. But this is the Kroger is at the like very top right hand. I'm sorry, not Kroger. Food Line is at that top right corner. So this is in the Hollymead area. There's one special exception associated with this development, and that's to the, how should I say this? Vet uses have supplemental regulations that they have to abide by. One of those regulations, the applicant is requesting a special exception to, and that regulation is to allow the proposed veterinary location to be within 200 feet of a residential property line. The basis of that is just to protect residents from ambient noise that might be associated with this use. So that would be most evident for the Gateway Circle community. So just some dates to be aware of. This project first came under review on June 3rd. And so it's going to be going to, just with how we've been going through this process, this application will be going to the public hearing with the Planning Commission on September 1st. And we're not sure when the Board of Supervisors meeting is, but that will be published ahead of time, so you'll know it. And then that's the end of my portion of the presentation. Past this meeting, you are more than welcome to contact me, the lead planner. This is my contact information. My email is, and I'm going to read it out also for those on the phone or just want to write it down. So my email is mgleason, which is GLEASON, at Albemarle, spelled out, .org. Can also be reached by phone. My phone number is 434-296-5832, extension 3097. I will say, in this period of COVID, most of us are working from home, so email is the fastest way to reach me and is probably the preferred method of contact. So if you have any additional thoughts after this meeting, you are more than welcome to leave a comment on the website. This website will remain open. And then I'm asking for comments to be sent to me by Monday, July 27th, which is a week from now, so they can be included in the summary of the community meeting that is provided in the staff report to the Planning Commission and Board of Supervisors. So that kind of wraps up my portion. And I'll provide that later in the meeting for people to copy down. I know that wasn't a ton of time, but we're going to keep moving and come back to it later. So Daniel, if you want to take it from here.
Sure. I hope you can hear me. And I will share my screen. Okay. Can someone give me a nod if you can see my screen? All right, great. Thank you, Mariah, for the introduction of the project. I'm here tonight representing a number of different people and organizations and businesses to try to make this happen, this relocation of Airport Animal Clinic. As Mariah indicated, the project location is basically at the corner of Worth Park and Worth Crossing, directly adjacent to Timberwood Grill and behind McDonald's, and adjacent to a small residential townhome community there. This is a relocation of an existing business that is already within and a part of the local community. Dr. Hay and the Airport Animal Clinic currently reside at the corner of Airport Road and 29 in a vintage strip mall of sorts. Dr. Hay is actually my family's vet. We take our dog there. He's a great doctor. So if you're looking for a vet, I highly recommend his team. But they will be relocating from that existing location to this proposed location. There is another project happening at the corner of Airport Road and 29 that will displace the business, his current operation. So as a part of that, we are asking for this special use permit to be granted so we can keep Dr. Hay and his staff near their existing location and keep them a part of the community they've been a part of for a while now. Here is another street view image of the building where Dr. Hay will relocate his veterinary practice. It is an existing building. It, in some ways, is kind of nondescript. There's a good vegetated buffer along Worth Crossing, some mature trees. This is an existing view of the parking area of that building. Yet again, another view of the building there. And I thought I would actually jump over to Google Street View for a moment. Here we are at street level on Worth Crossing. Here's the building here. Hopefully you can see my cursor moving around. And the entrance to the airport clinic will be here on this lower level with this lower parking lot through that door right there. And as Mariah mentioned, that entrance falls within a length of less than 200 feet from a residential property line. So as a part of our special use permit, we also will have a special exception request allowing this use to be in this location given its proximity to residential units. While we're looking at the street view, I think it's helpful to point out that there is a very robust and mature landscape and topographical difference between these two properties that will contribute to sound mitigation for those who might be concerned about sound. That said, as a part of our application, we did spell out that this will be specifically a building renovation. There's not a building addition. There's not a a change to the exterior appearance. This will be an interior renovation, and that interior renovation will utilize sound attenuating construction techniques that basically decouple the wall materials from inside the building from the wall materials outside of the building, thus breaking the continuity of sound transfer. So that is a part of our application. We've acknowledged that, and we do want to promote the fact that this veterinary practice is doing everything it can to respect the sound of the neighbors. That said, this is a drawing. We would call this a site plan or an exhibit. Here is Worth Crossing at the top of the screen, and then McDonald's, and then here is the townhome. And the distance we're looking at is really along this line here. It's about 170 feet from the property corner to the entrance, which is not, I would add, it's not building to building, it's building to property line. So it is a bit of a distinction worth making. There is no outdoor facilities. There is no puppy play yards or anything like that. It's simply an interior building use. This exhibit, we can go into more detail later if anyone wants to inquire about the specifics here. The point I really want to make is that it is existing building, interior renovation, local veterinary practice that's relocating. And as a part of our application, we will be using sound attenuating construction techniques within the building. That said, just to also put things in perspective, this use change doesn't really overtax the site. It isn't generating an abundance of more traffic or even parking requirements that would be needed as compared to a traditional office use. So as I understand it, the building is currently underutilized, and this would be utilizing an existing building within an existing community, providing veterinary service really within walking distance of a number of the neighbors in this area. And if anyone is interested in traffic generation figures, we can see here that ultimately the peak hour trips are, I would say, de minimis compared to the traffic volumes on Route 29. And I think the maximum daily trips is about 42 trips per day. A couple other noteworthy items to mention would be we are proposing operating hours of 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And we are not proposing any kind of boarding or kenneling features as a part of this use. It is simply a small animal veterinary practice. And to that end, the only animals that might ever stay overnight would be animals under some sort of medical care or watchfulness due to some, some medical reason. So I think that would be a good place for me to stop. And then if there's any specifics that people would be curious about, we can go into that at that time.
Thanks, Daniel, for that overview. So now we're going to head into the question and answer portion of the meeting this evening. So I'd just like to remind everybody the ways that you can participate. It doesn't look like we have anybody on the call, so I'll go through those instructions again. But if somebody does show up that is calling in, I probably will repeat them, just so everyone is aware. And then for those of you that are online, we have two options. You can share your comments or questions by clicking the raise hand button, which is again at the bottom of your toolbar. Or you can submit a question through the question and answer box, and staff will read your question out loud and comment from there. If you don't get a chance to ask a question or feel like your question wasn't answered fully, you are more than welcome to email me after the meeting, and I will get you the information that you're seeking, or at least summarize it. All of this will again be summarized in the summary that's provided in the staff report to the Planning Commission. And just as a reminder, this meeting as well as any writing comments are part of the public record. So yeah, feel free to ask and we will field accordingly. So while we're waiting, Daniel, do you want to go into some of those specifics?
Sure. What
Okay.
specifics do you feel
Gosh, I
would be
got scared you
helpful?
were going to say no.
Um, what specifics do you feel like would be helpful?
Well, you mentioned that this is an existing business owner that is moving, and do you want to talk a little more about the business? I know in your narrative you mentioned the kind of clientele for this, and again, it's not like there are no outdoor kennels or runs, so but I think it was small animals.
Yeah, it's small animals. It's not large animals that practice. And right now we'll be in the world of COVID when this has relocated. But right now, it's simply drop-off service. You drop your animal. They come and take it out of your car. You wait, and then you leave, and only the animal goes inside. Who knows how that will continue? I do see it that a question popped up. So
So this is from our planning commissioner, Corey Claiborne. And the question is, I know that sound levels are regulated by ordinance. Is there a testing that is required to make sure that it is compliance before the project is complete?
So
Yes.
we did include as a part of our application that because the sound levels could not be modeled adequately in a pre-development condition, that we would have them checked after the fact to make sure that we were below the 55 decibel limit required. So we did offer that would be tested when it can actually be measured, when I presume it is operational, that there's physically dogs and cats coming and going from the building. And we talked with we did talk with a sound expert, an acoustic engineer, I guess, and he said that it has to be occupied and being used in its intended use before that sound could actually be measured and conveyed to the county. So we have offered that will be done when the building is being occupied with this use and checked. And if it's not adequate, there will be measures taken to rectify that.
I would also tack on that there are other sections of our ordinance that regulate sound. This use would fall under those ordinances as well. It's, if you look it up, it's in chapter 18, section 4.18. The maximum sound levels. There is a specific decibel count, which is that's just a unit count to measure noise, decibel. Veterinary practices are beholden to a certain decibel count, and they are also, as a commercial use, they fall under and are subject to those maximum sound levels. So the sound levels change or can change depending on time of day, so daytime or nighttime. The daytime, I think, is a little above that. I think it might be 55. I have to check. But as a commercial use, which this parcel falls under, it would be a maximum noise level of 65 decibels. Let me look at that supplemental regulation. Supplemental regulations, by the way, for veterinary uses are in section 5 of chapter 18. So it's section 5.1 and then 11, and you can see all of the additional regulations that are specific to veterinary uses. So yes, this one is under subsection B of that code section. They cannot exceed 55 decibels. To reinforce Daniel's statement.
And that is measured at the adjacent property boundary.
Correct.
So that would actually be on the other side of this mature vegetated buffer that currently exists.
It might be I think it's at the property line. So right. Where that vegetative buffer exists, it would be measured at that point. In terms of when a dwelling and resident right here, it would be on the other side of that, of
Well,
the tree line, just as like a nuance.
okay. Two different, there's the parcel boundary of Dr. Hayes' parcel, and then there's the parcel for the townhome itself, which is the nearest residential unit. And I was under the impression that the sound would be measured at the townhome parcel boundary.
So in the zoning ordinance map, or the zoning map, that common space area, that open space, is actually a residential parcel.
Okay, all right.
That.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying that.
No. All right, guys. So it's been 5 minutes since our last question. We might hang out for just a little bit longer, and then we'll probably wrap it up. And this recording, by the way, will be viewable on the public input website, which you're viewing us through now. There's also a comment section on that will remain open if you want to submit comments later or questions. You are more than welcome to email me as well. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and put up my contact information once more so that if you didn't get it before, you can get it now. Sorry, bear with me as I navigate to my presentation again. Ooh. Oh, okay. I'm quickly going through the slides. There we go. Okay. So again, my email is mgleason@albemarle.org. Can also be reached by phone, though I prefer email. It gets to me faster. The phone number is 434-296-5832, extension 3097. And if you could email me before Monday, July 27th, which is next week, then I'll be able to coalesce our discussion tonight in one summary for the Planning Commission.
Mariah, I'm going to quickly respond to Corey's most recent question.
Oh, thank you.
Are there any large vehicles anticipated for deliveries? And the answer to that is no. I think the largest vehicle might be like a small SUV or a transit type vehicle that picks up lab samples periodically, but I wouldn't call it a large vehicle. It still fits in a standard parking space.
Okay. Oh, stop sharing. That magic button. All right. All right, I think we can probably wrap this up. Now, I know that there are other meetings happening tonight. So as we bring this to a close, I just want to thank everybody that's participating or viewing online for joining us tonight. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us. With that, we're going to close the meeting. So Caroline, if you could close us out in the recording, that would be great.